Hello there. The official UK population number rockets again to over 68 million, but only due to inward migration. There is now no doubt about it. Mass inward migration is supercharging our population growth, and that's official. Despite there being more deaths than births in the UK in the year to June 2023, the number of people living in the UK still rose by 662,400 to reach 68,265,200. A population increase of 662,400. That's the size of 1.25 times the size of Leeds, which is one of the most populous cities in the UK, in 1 year. That is the latest estimate from the Office for National Statistics, our very own ONS. Between August 2022 and June 2023, our population increased by about 1%. That's the largest annual percentage rise and the largest numerical rise since comparable records began in 1971. And this applies to all 4 countries of the UK, says the ONS. So obviously, without immigration, our population would be naturally falling. But that is not healthy for a vibrant economy unless you expect to see massive ramp-ups in worker productivity. And given that millions of us seem to be content to sit work out or do the bare minimum, that seems a very unlikely outcome. Maybe because money is too easy to come by for the work-shy, or those that work in our booming and criminal underground economy, that the police hierarchy for some or other reason appears to be unwilling to engage with. I wonder why. And on the same day this came out, we had the head of MI5, Ken McCallum, telling us about all the people from around the world from places like Russia and Iran who want to do us harm. Oh, and of course, there's the ubiquitous far right to deal with too, isn't there? All these dangers, and we won't engage in targeted stop and search, let alone slap proper controls on our borders. We must be employing the wrong people. You know, people who either don't care or who definitely do want harm to come to us in one form or another. And then there's general crime, with the latest revelation being that car thefts have rocketed 50% in the last 5 years, with Essex Police Superintendent Sean Kane quoted in the Telegraph as saying that every 5 minutes in the UK sees another car being stolen. Mainly high-end stuff to be sent abroad to places like Russia to avoid sanctions that prevent them from buying new cars. And they're flogged on either as a whole unit or for spares. Possibly the latter where Russia is concerned because they drive on the wrong side of the road. That also makes our export controls look pretty lax too. That people can rock up with container loads of stolen cars and car parts and bicycles and radios and whatever else, and they get craned onto a cargo carrier and just sail off. When was the last time we heard of a massive bust in that department? Although there have been recent reports of car theft gangs that use devices to get around keyless car security getting caught. But the big thing here is that having people in the UK with direct connections to recipient countries of stolen goods of any sort makes the whole process far easier to set up and operate. And it seems that getting such foreign facilitators into this country is easy peasy, given the porous state of our borders. But hey-ho, keep them borders open. It would be racist to do otherwise, wouldn't it? Our successive uniparty governments are our very own worst enemy. Now the question we need answering is why we needed those extra 662,400 people adding to our population in the first place. What benefit do they bring to the UK and its economy? Looking around at our failing public services and stalling economy, not much, I would think. In fact, some of the economic and crime stats I've seen suggest that a fair proportion are more of a drain on society than a gain. But you mustn't vocalise that in polite society for fear of cancellation, or worse, especially where the new preferred demographic is concerned. And I do have to wonder how many of these new occupants of our land end up marching the streets of London in support of Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis every weekend. Now, as I've said before, our birth rate has been below that required for replacement since the mid-1970s. That's half a century. So, had we put family and child-friendly policies in place back then, we would not require loads of newcomers right now. But instead of the government having an honest and open discussion with the people of the UK, saying fewer babies means they will be forced to open the borders, they just open the borders anyway. And they haven't thrown open the doors merely to replace the babies we're not having, they've just thrown open the borders, to the point we are unable to deport the wrong uns amongst them. Not that the establishment blob and its courts want any of them deported anyway, as is evident from the lack of deportations. Because deportations are, according to the socialists, anti-immigrant. They even refer to the weak deportation plans of the Labour Home Secretary Yvette Cooper as Gestapo-like. Because it plans to deport about 14,500 of them by about February next year, although more than 7,000 asylum seekers arrived on small boats alone in the first couple of months of this Labour government. Although this is just small beer to the hundreds of thousands of legal migrants who come here every year. How on earth are we meant to assimilate them all into a single cohesive society, when so many come here with differing attitudes to us on such matters as women's rights? Although where that's concerned right now, I'm not sure we're going down the right path at all. Then there's the attitudes to children and animals, attitudes to bribery, corruption, paying tax and crime. Then there's the sectarian issue, something that should be really concerning us right now. And then, of course, there will be those, both political and religious, that view a man-made political construct such as our UK democracy to be the ultimate evil that must be smashed. Yes, they really do exist. And the answer from the you will own nothing and be happy WEF and UN-controlled UK uniparty government is to wedge the borders ever wider open, telling me they are more concerned with tearing our country apart than trying to form a cohesive political and economic unit called the UK. So I'll ask the obvious question. How can any of this be a mere coincidence, or born of stupidity or incompetence? Especially as this exact scenario is being played out across the developed world, across Europe and North America, for example. You only have to look to see it. Now, I'm expecting the delivery of a book called Manifesto today that addresses that very topic, written by a certain Mr. T and Peter McLaughlin. Link in the descriptions box below, although it already appears to be sold out. The establishment, though, does not want the changing demographic landscape to be pointed out to you. The establishment is trying to make such discussions verboten. So, it is our duty to get this national conversation going for our own protection. Now, there is a United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. But of course, as ever, this will not apply, for some reason, to the people of the UK whose ancestry goes back centuries. That is why the woke left always claim that everyone in the UK is an immigrant, so as to sidestep this UN declaration. That UN declaration is much more likely to be used successfully by ethnic minorities newly arrived in the country against the natural population. That's how these international treaties, just like the ECHR, are weaponised against us.